Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guests. Well, if you are fans of thru hiking and outside adventure, and I'm pretty sure you are if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to be talking to some people this week that you have probably heard of. My guests this week have a huge following on TikTok and Instagram, and they've got an incredible website as well. You may remember that we heard from them in our Updates from the Trail episode back in season 2. Welcome to the podcast, Renee and Tim, who are fresh off the Continental Divide Trail.
Hello.
Howdy, Doc.
How's it going? How long were you out there on the trail?
135 days. Yeah, so a little over 4 months.
Okay, very good. I can
May until September, so it was a good way to spend the summer.
Nice. Can't wait to hear all about it. Now, have you guys listened to the John Freakin' Muir Pod before?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I only ask because I want to make sure that you are aware that we go strictly by trail names on the podcast. And so I'm Doc. I imagine you guys over the course of 3,100 miles and even from your earlier hikes, you have picked up trail names.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've actually switched. On our first long hike, the Pacific Crest Trail, I was Sausage.
And I was Blue Man.
But on the Continental Divide Trail, we switched. So now I'm Tick.
And I'm Talk.
Tick and Talk, like the social media platform.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're named after.
Or a grandfather clock.
Yeah.
So let's start with Sausage and Blue Man, because I love to hear the backstories on these trail names. How did you pick up Sausage and Blue Man?
Well, so for Sausage, I didn't eat meat or animal products on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I like meat a lot, and so I would talk about it. And when people were talking about food, I would start talking about the various sausages I hoped that I was eating, and that turned into a trail name and stuck around.
Yes, talk about food. That is one of the two major topics on the trail.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's right. Okay. And how about Blue Man?
One day I was hiking in my bright blue base layer because my clothing had gotten wet the night before because I left it out near some water and it was all wet. So I just was wearing my bright blue base layer, and I had, during the PCT, buzzed my hair off. So I had so I think I looked like the Blue Man group. So.
Okay. Now, I don't want to assume anything. Are the two of you married?
Yes.
We are.
Okay. Very good. And how did you go from Sausage and Blue Man to TikTok on the CDT?
So I think for both of us, definitely for me, I didn't really like the name Sausage that much. And you kind of get awarded a trail name, and if it sticks, you take it. So at that point on the PCT, I took it. But setting out into the CDT, I wanted a different one. And so I was introducing myself as Tim and seeing what stuck. And then, were you basically the same?
Yeah, yep. Just ready for a fresh start.
And then the hikers early on the Continental Divide Trail learned about our surprisingly large presence on TikTok and had fun saying, "Oh, you guys have to take Tick and Talk." And so that seemed fitting. And we didn't know at first who was Tick and who was Talk, but here we are. My name is Tim, so Tim is similar to Tick, so that's how it went.
Makes sense. And you said surprisingly large following on TikTok. How did the TikTok presence develop? How did that go? Because you guys have some great videos on TikTok. Is that what they're called? Videos on TikTok? I don't want to be a boomer and mislabel anything, but that's what they seem to be to me. Clips on TikTok, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Short videos. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did that all happen?
We were having fun making them, and for a while, not too many people cared. We had a following, and we were of a few hundred people, and we were making these videos. And then at some point, as we were getting closer to the Continental Divide Trail, it just took off, and people started signing up to see more of what we were putting out there. And yeah, I don't know if there was anything in particular that made it take off, but at the start of the trail, we were up to 400,000 followers, and by a month in, we had 1 million followers, and it's continued growing. So that's really been a surprise.
That's fantastic. My family, they all consider themselves talent scouts for the John Freakin' Muir Pod. And so my youngest daughter, who is 20, she's a college senior, she says, "Dad, you should interview these people." And she holds up her phone. It's one of your TikToks. And I said, "Casey, I'm interviewing them next week. I talked to them earlier, and they're coming on the podcast." She's like, "No way. These people are famous. They're famous."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we have a TikTok here for John Freakin' Muir, and we're at that early stage of development where not many people tune in, but we have some fun putting some stuff up there.
Yeah, we follow it. We've been following John Freakin' Muir on TikTok for at least since May. So
nice. Okay. Hey, also, you guys are familiar, since you've listened to the podcast, you're familiar with the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. That is a segment towards the end of the episode where I will turn to you and I will ask you, what piece of wisdom can you share with our listeners that's going to make their next outdoor experience even better? And we'll look for a pro tip from each of you, from Tick and from Talk.
Okay.
Okay, so don't be surprised.
We won't.
Okay. All right. Hey, another feature we've been doing this season is the must bring gear review. And here's how it works. If you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a multi-day hike, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that specific piece of gear, even better. And this segment is sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company, Outdoor Vitals. So Tick and Talk, what is your must-bring piece of gear?
My must-bring piece of gear is a closed foam sleeping pad. I love having my pad on the outside of my pack, and at lunch or whatever, I pull it out and I'm always sitting on it, and I find it more comfortable than a inflatable pad. So yep, mine is the closed foam sleeping pad, and I've used the Nemo Switchback and the Thermarest Z-Lite. They're both work. Both are good. I like the short version. So yeah.
Okay, and have you tried the blow-up pads?
Yes, I have. And
you prefer the foam?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's also very handy to have on the outside of your pack, and when you take a break, to be able to take that off your pack and just sit on something comfortable.
Yeah. Yep. I'm always sitting on mine. So, and Tim always has holes in his butt in his pants. So
I use the same type of pad. I'm just usually too lazy to take it off of my pack and sit on it. So yeah, I rip a lot of pants on the trail. What is your brand of pants that you wear? Oh, various.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever found a pair of pants that I'm so in love with that I suggest it widely. But
you're not sponsored by Prana or anybody?
No.
Okay. All right. It's coming. Yep.
We'll see. Let's hope. Before I say mine, I think Talk didn't add a fun reason why, like, part of why we said we're never going back to inflatable was we were camping and it was 0 degrees Fahrenheit in northern Wisconsin, and we had a pad blow out, and 0 degree weather, it's dangerous all of a sudden when you lose your sleeping pad. And we were okay, we survived, but never wanted to experience that again. So that's a big part of why closed foam is, for both of us, our go-to.
Right. Yeah, there's no risk of it deflating, right? It's always going to be foam, and you don't have to take that chance of sleeping on the cold, hard ground in 0 degrees. That is dangerous. Yeah. So, Tick, how about you? What is your must bring piece of gear?
So we both like cooking and eating, and so it's food related, and I'm a major fan of pots with heat sinks. So if you've seen these pots, it's like, I don't care the material. I've had aluminum pots or titanium pots, but something with a heat sink on the bottom to make the heat transfer go a little better from the flame to the pot. You save some fuel and you save time, and it just makes the cooking experience more fun for me. So that's my must-have, is some pot with a heat sink.
Okay, that's interesting. I've talked to lots and lots of people, and I have never heard that item as a must bring, but that makes sense. That's great.
Well, in the wind especially, I think, so we did a test, and we think it saves about 30% of the fuel, which really, when it comes down to it weight-wise, I don't know if it's really worth the extra weight of the heat sink to save 30% on fuel. But in the wind, I think you save 50% of fuel, because wind will just whip the flame out from underneath your pot. So the heat sink still catches it when it's windy, and then you have a little bit of freedom to keep cooking, even if you'd otherwise be getting low on fuel on a longer carry. So.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And this is a good jumping off point in our discussion to talk about gear. I'd love to hear, what was your base weight on the Continental Divide Trail, and your sleep system. What are some of the essentials out there?
Yeah, so I think we both had a base weight of under 10 pounds on the CDT. So that was nice to be so light compared to previously. And so
what was it previously? What was it on the PCT?
We probably started out around maybe 15 pounds on the PCT, and maybe got it down to 12 or so by the end.
And some hikes before that, it was probably 1 trillion pounds. We look at old pictures of our backpacking trips, and it's surprising how much we fit on our backs. So we embraced ultralight when we did the PCT, but we hadn't yet really learned.
We learned extra tricks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are some of those tricks? Let's enlighten our listeners out there who maybe have not watched your TikToks.
Sure. Well, we don't change clothing. That's pretty typical for a thru hiker, is to wear the same outfit every single day, but save several pounds compared to our former backpacking selves by always wearing the same clothes. What else? Oh,
no, you go.
We share one pot and one spork. So, there's some weight savings. You always ask people if they cut the handles off their toothbrushes, and we each carry our own full length toothbrush, but when it comes to eating utensils, we can get by with just one spork for 2 people. So.
Tick and talk. You know what that is? That is true love right there. That's great. And then how about your, did you go ultralight on do you do tent or tarp? How does that work? Or bivvy?
We started the CDT with a tarp. So in New Mexico, we mostly cowboy camped, and then I think we set up our tarp about 6 times maybe due to rain. So that was great in New Mexico. And then we switched to a tent in Colorado for the rest of the trail. So we had a Z-Pax duplex.
Okay. And how big was your tarp?
What was it?
I think it was 9 feet by 10 feet, if I remember.
Yeah.
It was really hard to pick the size, but we were happy with that size. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I think so.
Yeah. Now a tarp that size, that allows you to do a whole variety of different types of pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube with tarp pitches. And so, I've asked this question many times, and people have talked about, having specialized tarps where it only sets up one way, or didn't have any idea what I was talking about. So I'm hoping that you guys have a favorite pitch.
I mean, we pretty much always just do the A-frame. I don't know if that's what you call it, but standard. Yeah.
Right.
It's a square tarp, which means or a flat tarp, they call it. It doesn't have any special stitching. It's just a tarp. So that does give us the freedom to set it up various ways. But I don't know, if you watch those YouTube videos of people setting up their tarps crazy ways, they're usually on their front lawn where they have perfect ground for staking and all the ropes and sticks you could dream of. And those are cool, but for us, it's almost always most convenient to do it A-frame. Not always. If we have a really bad wind on one side, we've
put one side down to the ground and can leave the other side a little up, but
Yeah, that's a fair point. You must have been watching me. I was on my back lawn doing all those different pitches. And I call my wife out, hey, look at this pitch. And she's like, she's just shaking her head at me. I go, what are you talking about? What are you doing? But my favorite is the asymmetrical Holden. So if you haven't heard about that, look it up. Asymmetrical Holden pitch. It is one side is down, one side is up, but you have one trekking pole off to the side. So you have kind of a point that's higher than the rest on one side. It's kind of, you have to look it up. I'm not doing a good job explaining it, but it's really nice. A lot of access to the night sky, a lot of protection if you put it up the right way where the wind's coming from. So, yep. And cowboy camping. I did a lot of cowboy camping this past summer, not on a trip as extensive as yours, but I was on a couple of trips, and being exposed to the night air and the night sky up at altitude where there's not really a whole lot of bugs, and just seeing the stars at night, waking up in the middle of the night and seeing that sky, just incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think you're a Californian. So when we lived in California for a little while, that was when we first discovered the possibility of cowboy camping, because here in the Midwest, it's not really an option. You get wet, whether it's raining or not, there's always moisture. And in California, all of California, really, it was just great to be able to do that or camp without our tarp on the tent or whatever.
Okay. And speaking of that, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about your background, where you grew up, if you were involved in, different sports or hobbies, or if outdoor adventure was part of your life growing up. Did your parents expose you to that? And just how you got involved in outdoor adventure. And I want to hear each of your stories.
Okay.
Sure. And we did some thinking about this question, and so hopefully we thought of everything. For me, I come from a family that prided itself on experiencing the outdoors. So we were doing lots of national park trips when I was a kid and car camping that way. And then around middle school, I got more interested in adventure trips with Boy Scouts. So I had a chance to do some week-long real backpacking trips with Boy Scouts, which I hadn't had the opportunity to do with my family. We were really just car campers. So from a young age, that was my exposure to the outdoors, was really Boy Scouts got me doing adventure stuff. And
I think my family went car camping a couple times, but it wasn't a big thing with us. But so I guess I was more into sports. Like I was a swimmer and a little bit of track also, so just endurance sports.
Okay. And where did you guys grow up? Were you in the Midwest?
Yes, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin.
And I'm from Chicago area in Illinois.
Okay. And how did you two meet?
We met in college. We both went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we met at a football game.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Love at first sight?
Maybe. Not quite sure.
We ask the tough questions here on the John Freaking Muir Pod. Don't be surprised.
I think I had the hots for Renee before she noticed who I was, but I caught her eye eventually.
There is something to be said about persistence.
But so then our kind of growth as backpackers continues. So then we knew each other, and we did just a lot of outdoors stuff together. Some backpacking trips and canoeing and camping, and it was something that I remain quite proud of that the two of us did together. Was we volunteered for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources tracking wolves. And they were trying to get a count of the wolves in the state. So we would get out in the wintertime and look for wolf prints in the snow. And that was a lot of fun. So that was at one stage in our relationship, we were doing all this outdoors stuff. And then at another point, we kind of switched to doing endurance athletics, right? So.
Yeah. We did a lot of biking and running and swimming and triathlons. And yeah. So.
And then we kind of figured out how to combine those things into through hiking. So I think through hiking is a good way to be, on the one hand, very much an endurance athlete, and on the other hand, really outside and enjoying nature as you can.
Absolutely. Great combo. And I'm always interested to hear from folks when they first learned about the long trails, that such a thing existed, that where you could walk from Mexico to Canada. And, I remember when I had that first realization, it was mind blowing. Like, people did this. Are you kidding? And so, I hear you about, the triathlons and the outdoor adventures, and you guys did car camping. And, but when did you realize that long trails existed and that this might be something you're interested in?
Tim's mom gave me the book Wild for Christmas one year. And so I read that, and then we were kind of applying for some jobs and had the opportunity to move to California. And I was like, yes, let's do it. The PCT is out there. So I think, the book Wild sparked my interest.
Yeah, and I'd say Renee sparked my interest in doing that. She caught the bug of really wanting to hike the PCT, and I initially maybe took a little longer to convince, but when we lived in California, we did all sorts of hikes on the PCT, and it was just a matter of time until I was convinced that no need to wait till we retire. We can do it now. So.
Okay. And what part of California did you live in?
Davis, California.
Okay.
In near Sacramento or San Francisco. Yeah.
Right. As a Southern California guy, I'd say that's, Northern California, but really it's probably closer to Central California, right? That's a long state.
I was about to say Northern California, but no, it's not really Northern if you look on the map.
The people in Davis had a complex about that, I think, really saying, like, they call us Northern California, but look at the map, we're not in the North. But that's like us right now. We're talking to you from the Midwest, and look at the map, we're not in the West.
Nice. Now you mentioned not having to wait until you retire to do this. What do you guys actually do to pay the bills or to fund your trips?
We have jobs, like boring, not boring. I like my job, but regular jobs.
Just in case your employer is listening.
No, but they're. But what I mean is that we're not doing adventure related things for our income. I'm a professor of plant genetics.
And I'm a mechanical engineer.
Wow. Okay. And our listeners should know that Chicago is not where you call home these days. You actually live across the pond. Yeah.
In 2018, we moved to Germany for jobs over there. So that's where we lived from 2018 to 2021. And then to get ready for the CDT, we sort of rearranged our working and living situation. And so I reduced my employment to 60% time over the course of the year. And that should last indefinitely. So that's a good way to make sure we can get out and do adventures. And
I quit the job that I had in Germany, but I'm going to try my hand at some freelance engineering this fall and see how that goes.
Okay. Now, Tick, You said professor of plant genetics?
Yeah.
Okay. And which university was that at?
So it's called the University of Göttingen, or for Germans, it's Georg August Universität Göttingen. It's a German university, and yeah, it's kind of in the middle of the country. It doesn't have so much of a reputation among English speakers, but it's one of the major universities in Germany.
Okay. And do you speak German?
No, we've been learning. So
We're learning.
Nice thing about having English as a native language is that it's very international. So many Germans speak English, and it's enough of a language at a university that they can hire actually a professor who doesn't speak German. And imagine that happening here. If a professor came to work in the US and said, I don't speak English, only German, that wouldn't fly. But it did work for over there. And I do have to learn it over time. So both Tak and I take German lessons regularly. Yep.
That is fascinating that you speak English, don't speak German fluently. You move to Germany, you get a job as a professor teaching class at this German university in English. Yeah, you're right. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen here. Yeah. That is mind blowing. And Tak, tell us what does a mechanical engineer do?
Well, mechanical engineers can do a lot of things, but I do heating, cooling, ventilation in mostly commercial or industrial buildings. So I've done design, worked for a company in Germany, did more facilities where we built large company and built new buildings around the world. So for plant breeding. So yeah, just a lot of things.
Okay. I've got an upcoming episode that's going to air before this one with some sisters that I met on the Mineral King Loop Trail in the Sequoia National Park. And one was a mechanical engineer and one was a chemical engineer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So quite the pair. They're a lot of fun to talk to. Now, I always tell the people that I talk to who are involved in relationships and who take those relationships out on the trail that there is no hiding on the trail. I mean, you are out there 24/7, seeing the best and the worst, stressful situations at times, and there's no hiding who you are. Who you are is who you are on the trail. And if you are a couple on the trail and you not only survive, but you thrive in that environment, that means you are a forever couple, right?
Yeah, I guess we've lasted 2 through hikes, so that's a good sign so far.
That's right. Any moments out on the trail where you realize something about your partner out there that you didn't previously know?
Well, that's a good question.
I realized when she has to go to the bathroom, she has to go to the bathroom.
Get out of the way.
There's no, oh, I'm going to hold it for a minute. It's coming now.
I might have to think on that one.
Okay. I'm a former teacher, so I've got good wait time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now in Germany, you guys created an app for hiking in Germany.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Germany has a bunch of marked and named long trails that are about, 100 to 200 miles long or a little longer. And so we had a little PCT reunion and met up with two PCT hikers when we first moved to Germany and hiked the Harzer Hexenstieg, which is the Witches Trail in English. And it was a blast. And we tried to find an app to tell us the information we needed, but there was no such app. So we hiked the trail and kind of pieced together our own maps and decided, maybe we should make an app and for all these German trails. So, yeah.
And what is the app called? What's the app called?
Wanderfreund, which means hiking friend.
Okay.
Spelled with a W but in Germany it's Wander, not Wander. So,
And which of the two of you is the app designer?
neither. So the two of us together are the developers, and we have a third partner, Parmesan from the PCT. He was a friend of ours on the PCT, and he lives nearby.
And he's a real German who actually speaks German.
Yeah. And he's the designer, right?
Yeah.
So he's the designer, we're the developers.
Which means, he puts together the pretty pictures and works on how the user interface should look like. And Tim and I write the code, and
Is it kind of like All Trails for Germany? Or how is it different? I mean, I imagine you have good trail information, description of the trail, where the trailhead is, how long the trails are, kind of difficulty level.
It's a lot like All Trails or Google Maps or Guthook, kind of. It's a German version of those. So there was no app over there that was doing kind of long trails well. And we felt like what really needs to happen is a good interface and also good data. And so that's where it kind of differs from All Trails. Is every trail that we've put in the app so far we've really curated the data.
So we go out and we hike the trails and we record where's the water, where our German trails have these huts that you stay in. So where's the water, where's the huts, where's the towns. So we
have photographs of all of that. And so that makes it through hiker friendly. I'd say that you need water if you're trying to do a through hike. And,
That's right. And what kind of feedback have you gotten from folks about the app?
Really great feedback so far. So people seem to really like both the app and having the data available to them when hiking. So it's been great to get such good feedback.
And go ahead.
That's been exciting. That it's a product that didn't really exist over there, so we didn't know if the German market had an appetite for this sort of app. And I mean, it certainly hasn't taken off. We don't have millions of downloads, much less than that. But the people who are using it are often sending us messages saying, wow, this is so amazing and it's really useful. And we've even had people reach out, and right now it's free. We're trying to just get it out there. So in 2021, trails are all free that are in the app right now. We've had people offer to pay us just because they said, oh, this has been so useful. Can we just give you the money that you would be charging if it was for sale already? So that's been really cool to get that feedback.
That's great. I was going to ask if this was a current revenue stream for you.
It's a negative revenue stream.
kind of like a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
But we did, what's the term? We incorporated a business over there for it. And and so there's just various small fees, but fees associated with that. And someday we hope that it can be a revenue stream. But
or is it sustain itself, I guess more.
Yeah. And we're thinking hard about how that can look in the long run. How can we grow without sacrificing the quality of what's in there, because that's what gives it value, the data itself. So, but we'll see. Definitely zero euros have come in so far.
But some have gone out. Yes.
Great. Now you've done quite a bit of hiking in Germany. You've hiked these trails that you're uploading into Wanderfrund. Did I pronounce it right?
Really close.
Really close. Okay. All right. I'll go. I'm okay with close. All right. How are the hiking trails in Germany different from those in America, or are there sections of America that are comparable to the trails in Germany?
I'd say they're pretty different. Germany has, it's a lot more populated than the US. So you go through a lot of small towns. You also pass by, Germany has a lot of forests. So you go through nice forests and hilly, nice forests. And small towns, and you also get coffee stands and beer gardens and bakeries. So it's a different style of hiking than the PCT or CDT, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I got to the top of Mather Pass the first time and was expecting a juice stand up there or something, but I was sorely disappointed. But having a beer garden or a pub maybe on the trail, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's fun to have that.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Jamba Juice. Jamba Juice is what I was thinking. That's what I was looking for at the top of Mather Pass. There was no Jamba Juice anywhere in sight.
But that really is it. If there's like the tallest, mountain, there'll be a beer garden on top, and yep, it's great.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I can't tell if you're pulling my leg or not.
But we even have a TikTok about it.
Really? Okay. All right.
It really is every mountain has a beer garden or a coffee stand or something like that. Always.
It seems like, at least.
Yeah, maybe not everyone, but wilderness is not. It's not the same concept in Germany as it is in the U.S., which has which makes it different. Which means you can get a coffee when you're at the top of a mountain, which is kind of nice.
Germany, here I come. Nice. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear about some stories and some trails from the U.S., including the JMT, the PCT, and the CDT. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. The John Freakin' Muir Pod is sponsored by Outdoor Vitals, the ultralight backpacking gear company whose mission is to improve the mental, physical, and emotional health of mankind by facilitating impactful outdoor experiences. Outdoor Vitals creates innovative technical products with confidence-inspiring education that empower outdoor ultralight adventurers. Their focus on performance enables you to live ultralight with gear you can actually be confident with. Whether you're looking for an ultralight sleep system, shelter, or pack, or if you're looking for top quality apparel for the trail, you can find it at Outdoor Vitals. Do yourself a favor. Live ultra light. And welcome back. We are talking to Tick and Talk about their adventures. And I want to go back to, I think it's 2015, when you guys did a hike on the JMT. And I understand this was not the full JMT, but you were out there for a couple of weeks, few weeks, and this was your first long hike together?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we were hoping to get a permit for the JMT, but the permits were all taken, so we got a permit from Vermilion Valley Resort to Walker Pass. And it was planned for 17 days. It ended up being 14 days because when we got to Kennedy Meadows South, there was rumors of a 30-mile water carry, and that was just too much for us at the time.
Yeah. Now on people's first long hikes, it's sometimes there's a learning curve involved. I've talked to people who their first overnight experience on the trail was doing the Appalachian Trail. And so they went into it expecting one thing and ending up with a whole different reality. So was there any kind of learning curve for the two of you on the JMT?
Definitely. We didn't know about the concept of ultralight or light or not just bringing everything you think might be fun. So we just kind of loaded up our packs with, I think we had a magnetic Scrabble board and changes of clothing and a lot of stuff, including 17 days of food, because we figured we didn't want to resupply. We just hiked the whole thing through. Resupply sounded like Well,
I don't think we even knew what a resupply was. We learned on the trail about the concept of resupplying from other hikers out there.
Yeah. And so we really just set out with a lot of stuff, and that made it challenging. So there's definitely a learning curve, and but we had a lot of fun. I mean, it was a great trip, and being out in the high Sierras for 14 days and away from everything was just amazing.
Now, before I ask you some of your favorite spots in the Sierras, I have to know, how did you cram 17 days worth of food into a bear canister? Because I've carried 10, and that was a tight fit. I can't imagine 17. Did you crush all the Pop-Tarts together, or how did that work?
So it took a little bit of creative research. So we had a map with us of where all the on the JMT, there's bear boxes at some of the campsites. So we knew where all of those were. So we tried to camp at the campsites that have the big metal bear boxes. And then when that wasn't possible, we learned that you can do a counterbalance bear hang, and that's acceptable in the it's not acceptable in Yosemite, but it's acceptable in Sequoia and Kings Canyon. So
they really don't recommend it, and it really did take some, you call it creative research. When you first read the rules, it seems like you have to have a bear canister. But after talking to rangers, we learned that on the parts that we were on, we were okay to use these bear lockers in some spots, and in other spots it was okay to do the counterbalance hang.
But that was back in 2015, so maybe they've changed the rules, but we didn't actually bring a bear can at all.
Really? Okay.
And since then, we've done the PCT, as mentioned. In 2018, we did that. And for that stretch, we did the traditional bear canister approach, or the typical bear canister approach.
Okay. So for our listeners out there who are planning a hike on the JMT, make sure to read all the fine print and know exactly what is required there to store your food.
And be careful about storing your food. I mean, I definitely don't mean to say that the rules are meant to be maneuvered around. I think we were careful about doing the bear hang the right way that the rangers say, and so I feel proud of how we did that, and I'm very in favor of following bear rules.
Yeah, when you told me 17 days worth of food on the JMT and doing it all in one fell swoop, I just imagined this bear canister stuffed to the top, and then stepping on top of it in her bare feet and kind of pushing it down, making room for some more, and then putting some more in, and just having a whole hodgepodge of food in there.
Well, that was our first trip where we did extensive dehydrating of food. And so we did have, for 17 days, relatively light, small food, but still it was 17 days of food. So.
And we know from your TikTok videos that are you guys vegan?
Yes.
Yes. And were you vegan at that point in 2015?
Not in 2015.
Okay. So when we get to a trail where you are now vegan, you have to share eating strategies and meal planning.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Sierras, one of my favorite spots to be, one of the most gorgeous places in the world to hike. What were some of your favorite spots in the Sierras?
I can go first.
Okay.
In 2015 on that JMT hike, we were just blown away by Ray Lakes. I think everybody's blown away by Ray Lakes. And I think we were rushing at that point, and for whatever reason, we just felt like we hadn't spent enough time there, despite it being amazing. So in 2018, when we came back through on the PCT, we made sure to take a half day when we got to Ray Lakes and just enjoyed it and did some swimming, and a friend we were with did some fishing, and that stands out as really a highlight, being in that spot for the second time and knowing it was coming as we were approaching it, and knowing we were going to have this great time hanging out, which is rare on a through hike when you're pushing and pushing. So.
Right.
Yeah. I think Forester Pass is really amazing also, because it's the transition from like the dry southern Sierras to this just green Sierras. So I really love just going over Forester Pass and that transition.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Forester Pass. First 2 times I went over, it was thunder and lightning and wind and rain and hail and hypothermia. And then I went over just this past summer, and it was all blue skies and sunshine, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And it's like a different world up there. I mean, it is absolutely just amazing.
Yeah.
Now, as this being your first extended hike for 2 weeks, I think you said, were there any moments on the trail where you kind of looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? What have we gotten ourselves into? This is scary right now.
Yeah. The end. What have we gotten ourselves into? We're about to leave this trail and go back to the world. We were mid-move on that hike, and it was, the end of a hike is always like, what are we getting ourselves into when we go back?
Yeah, I think other than really heavy backpacks, it went really, really smoothly for us, and we fell in love with it. And we even met some PCT thru hikers, and that was like, whoa, these guys are all stars. They're just in these shorts and t-shirts and really skinny, and they have these tiny packs and funny names. And it was like, wow, we got to do this someday. So.
Is that when you knew that the PCT was in your future? You stepped off the trail from the JMT, and you had a conversation at some point down the road and said, let's do this, but on steroids. Let's do 2,600 miles.
Yeah, it was maybe that point. And then we went on another just weekend trip in Washington on the PCT and met another thru hiker. And that thru hiker happened to be living in the town that we were currently living in Columbia, Missouri. And so that was like, whoa, this guy lives in our town. And so when he came back and finished his hike, we met with him, got some beers with him, and picked his brain. And then it was pretty much a sure thing.
He made it real. He was a person from our town of not that many people who we could actually meet with. He wasn't like one of the unbelievable figures who flew past us when we were on the JMT, but he was a guy we were hanging out with. And so, yeah, it really was a wake up call that this was doable.
Tick, I love the way you put that. He made it real. And that struck a chord with me, because that is what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Is you hear about people, you hear about these things, you hear about these trails, and you're like, how is this? How can this be? And my goal is to talk to people that have done this, so that other people can see, you know what, this is something that I can consider. This is something I can do. It's kind of it goes to the efficacy of the whole ordeal. And if, I'm talking to you two who seem to be very genuine, normal people, I hope there's somebody out there that says, hey, you know what? They did it. I think I can do that.
Yeah. Yep. And that's, with our TikTok videos too, it's kind of cool. We love just exposing people to the outdoors and letting everyone know that, just go outside. It's a lot of fun. Go for a hike or a thru hike.
That's right. Now, I asked you about an uh-oh moment, and Tick, you came up with when you get off the trail. And so that leads me to, is post-trail depression a real thing?
I don't like that term, but yeah, it's hard. It's a transition. I think any transition in life is hard, and kind of the goals and objectives that drive you especially on a long distance, long timeline hike, are just very different than regular life. And right now we're doing sort of a tour. We just finished the CDT. We're visiting various different family members before we return to Germany. and just little things like having a schedule that we're supposed to stick to is frustrating. When you see a hiker on the trail and you don't know when you'll see him again, you say, yeah, we'll talk sometime soon. And it might be a day, it might be an hour, it might be a month, it might be never again. And that's just okay out there. And then in regular life, if I say I'm going to be somewhere at 7 p.m., I should be there at 7 p.m. or it's rude. And that's fine, but it's hard to switch back and forth.
Yeah, trail life is pretty simple and rewarding. You just have some miles to hike every day, and if you hike them, you feel good about completing your goal and just kind of have to worry about where's the water. So simple but rewarding. And life is more complicated.
Well said by each of you. That makes perfect sense. There is a beautiful simplicity to trail life. You get up, you pack up, you hike, you set up camp, you eat, you go to sleep, and you do it again. If you do it enough times, you can go from Mexico to Canada.
Yep.
Yeah. And all your stuff fits in a tiny backpack that I just can't believe it. We've been driving around places lately, and we have so much luggage right now, and these 2 cats we're toting around the world, and it's like, whoa, how can it be that we just lived for 4.5 months with 10 pounds of stuff in a tiny backpack, and now we've got just all this stuff that we have to move really far.
All right. Hey, let's shift gears. Let's go to the PCT in 2018. It's now been 3 years since you've done the JMT. What have you learned? What have you done differently to prepare for the PCT?
We realized we needed just new, lighter gear and less gear. So I think that was the biggest change we made.
Yeah, just getting lighter was big. I remember as we were prepping, I thought, this is going to be cheap. We've got all of our stuff already. And then sort of one item at a time, we realized, no, we should not take that 6-pound tent. We should get a light tent, and we should, just repeatedly things like that. We realized. And so that was the biggest change.
Yeah.
Okay. And I forgot to ask, trail runners or boots?
Trail runners. Boots on the JMT, trail runners. On the PCT.
So that was another change. Was the move to trail runners. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good choice. And did you happen to meet Barney Scoutman and his wife Frodo? They are trail angels at the beginning of the PCT who host first-time hikers of the PCT and then drive them down to the southern terminus to begin their hike.
We did not. We didn't know about them. For some reason, we had kind of missed learning that was an option going there until they were already booked or full. Starting in 2018, probably a lot like this year, there were a lot of people starting out. And so I think they said we can only handle, 30 or 50 or some huge number of people per night at their house that they were hosting. But we were past that. So we stayed at a hotel the night before the hike in San Diego.
And was the PCT what you expected it to be?
I think it ended up being a lot more social than we realized it was going to be, but that was a good thing. We loved it and met a lot of really good friends. So
now I know 2017 was a high water year, high snow year. 2018, I seem to think that was less rain than usual. Is that accurate, or were the water carriers early on difficult?
I think it was a perfect year.
Okay.
It was not high snow, but not no snow. It was probably below average snow, or maybe
below average snow. I don't remember the desert being less water than normal, but
there were dry stretches.
Yeah.
I think it's not a year that we can say to people, but we did it in 2018. The 2019ers say that about their snow, and 2017, don't they call that the year of fire and ice or something like that? We were just the year of having a nice hike.
And there's something to be said about that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, great for us. Not too many obstacles to deal with in that sense.
Now, it was pretty social for you. I know that I've heard from multiple people that from the Mexican border to the Sierras, the conversation every day is about what's going to happen in the Sierras. Was that your experience?
Yeah, yeah.
We maybe didn't it wasn't as much of a mystery for us because we had already done that sort of hike through the Sierras that we talked about. So yeah, we might not have paid as much attention to the growing rumors about the pending Sierras, but there was plenty of talk about, there's people backing up for 3 weeks waiting for the snow to melt to get into the Sierras, and there's snowfall on this day. So definitely lots of talk about that.
Yeah, but we also started on May 3rd, so it was later than some people. So yeah, we were able to go right through, didn't have to wait at all. So it turned out to be a pretty good start date for us.
You started on May 3rd. When did you finish?
September 21st, which was our 5th wedding anniversary.
And did you guys go out and celebrate?
Yeah, we had champagne at the border.
You went to Canada to celebrate.
Yeah.
Very good. How many days was that? May 3rd to September 21st?
141.
And how many zeros did you take?
6.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty low number of zeros. You guys are on the move.
Yeah, we kind of discovered that a slow and steady approach worked well for us, and town was stressful, and yeah, so liked just being out on the trail more.
What made town life stressful?
Too many chores. Grocery shopping, picking up your box at the post office,
loitering with other hikers. That is a
showering,
chore.
laundry. Those are big chores. Yeah.
Town really is always quite stressful for me. You've got to do the stuff you've got to do. And on the trail, like we said a minute ago, it's so simple. There's almost nothing to do. So town is like, okay, get in the zone and go buy the food and so on.
Okay. And I want to hear from each of you. What was the best part of the PCT? It has many different personalities. It's a long trail, covers a lot of different environments. What was your favorite part and what was your least favorite part?
I guess I can start.
Okay.
My favorite part was Northern California. And that's because we've been out for long enough. So that comes like after the Sierras and
after the
Sierras, and over 1,000 miles in, over 1,000 miles to go. I just felt very connected with the trail. And I mean, the scenery is beautiful everywhere, but it was like this dream world that was never going to end. There was no counting down to the finish at that point. So that was just my favorite section, I think.
Okay. And do you do you want to share your favorite section, or do we want to hear Tick's least favorite section first?
Yeah, that's really hard. My answer is always, when people ask me what's your favorite part, I always say the entire thing. I liked everything, all sections. Yeah. Everything was good.
It was a good trip.
Every different section had its different character, and it was fun experiencing all of them.
Okay. And Tick, did you have a least favorite part?
Yeah, but I mean, I like Talk's answer that because the whole thing was amazing. But the most challenging part for me was when we finished, we had almost no rain the entire trail until Washington. And the last couple weeks of our hike in 2018 were just rainy, a lot of rain. And it was still a great time, but that really tested our skills to be just in constant rain for 2 weeks straight, nowhere to dry your stuff out. And it was hard, but it was still fun. But yeah, if I have to pick a least favorite part, it would be that.
Okay. Now, when I go out for a couple weeks at a time, I get a side eyes look from my family and from my wife. I'm curious, what did your families think about this, months long, 141 day hike? Do they think you're a bit crazy? Do they understand? Are they supportive? How does that work with your families?
My mom says never to get Renee a book because she's done the same thing with multiple ideas. You plant the idea and she follows it through to the end. So they tease us a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, I think they were supportive, but also skeptical. Yeah, on the PCT, but yeah.
And what did they say about the CDT?
They're back at it.
They're back at it. And having done the PCT and the CDT, is the natural progression the AT now? Is there a desire to be a triple crowner, or that's not really a burning need?
I guess it's not a burning need, no. Yeah, I'm not sure about the AT. Maybe someday, probably someday, but not anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, I second that. We like it. It seems like a great trail, so maybe at some point, but I don't think it'll be our next big hike.
Okay. Now, the CDT, I've heard from multiple people that the starting point of the CDT in New Mexico, there's a lot of wayfinding involved and a lot of questionable water sources. Was that your experience this year, or have they kind of picked up the maintenance of the trail?
Yeah, I think they made a big effort recently to mark New Mexico better. So there's definitely some stretches that were hard, but I think hard to find our way, but it was tolerable. Yeah.
Yeah. And the water sources, there definitely are some questionable water sources. The very beginning, there's official water caches put out by the CDTC. So there's actually pretty good water for the first 100 miles. And then there's some spots that it goes downhill. But it's doable.
Yeah, I mean, we have our water filters.
Yeah, that's what filters are for. You put in something brown and it comes out clear.
Very good. Now, I was talking to a young man yesterday who was out just fresh off of the CDT, and like any novice, I don't know, I asked him, hey, did you meet so-and-so on the trail? Did you meet so-and-so on the trail? Because I knew other people that were out on the Colorado Continental Divide Trail. And it's like somebody asking me when they find out I'm from California, do you know so-and-so who lives in California, right? I did not expect, but he said that he met you guys out there. And so did you guys run into Two Taps?
Yeah, we did. We met him in West Yellowstone. Right?
Yeah.
We didn't hike with him for long, but yeah, it was fun to meet.
Yeah, he was a good interview last night. And I mentioned a couple other names, and he also met IB Tat, who has been a guest on this show. Did you meet IB Tat?
Yeah, yep. We ran into him in a town just briefly also. Yep.
Steamboat.
In a town, that's ironic because his name IB Tat is, I've been to a town. It's a reference to, was it Jeremiah Johnson, the movie?
I learned that on your podcast.
And last person I'm going to ask about is Chris Carter. Did you meet Chris Carter out there?
Doesn't sound like a trail name.
Rad. He goes by Rad.
Rad.
I don't think so.
That doesn't sound familiar.
He has the word rad tattooed on his butt, if that helps with the identification.
I don't think so.
I don't think I saw too many butts out there, but
So Chris Carter, he did the Pacific Crest Trail. I forget which year, but he made a documentary on YouTube called To Measure a Mile, which is just really well done. Excellent video. And he did the CDT this year, got up to Canada, and then made a right turn and jumped onto the AT. He's currently on the AT going southbound, aiming to be a triple crowner with 2 long trails in one season. So.
Oh, wow.
Well, that explains why we didn't meet him. He was probably done before we were halfway up.
All right. And so when did you guys go vegan? And tell us the reason why.
2017, we both decided to go vegan. And for me, it's mostly to reduce my impact on land use. So if you eat a tomato, it takes up the space of a tomato plant. If you eat a piece of wheat, it takes up the space of a wheat plant. If you eat a cow, it takes up the space of a lot of corn plants and so on. So I don't want to influence anybody else how to eat, but that's for me is a way that I can use less land for my food so that there's more land to go hiking and exploring in.
Yeah. And yeah, that's my reasoning as well. And it feels like a pretty healthy, satisfying diet also. So
Was it a joint decision, or did somebody give Talk a book to read?
Good question. I don't know who came up with this idea first, but
yeah, I guess it was relatively joint. We make a lot of joint decisions. So.
That's good. That's a sign of a strong relationship right there. Now, when you guys did the PCT and the CDT, how did you meal plan as vegans on the trail?
We dehydrate food. So that's something that takes a little bit of extra work, but we really have a lot of fun doing it. And so on the PCT, we tried to mail ourselves all of our food. And as people point out, sort of your tastes change on a long hike. And we always liked our dinners, but we didn't necessarily like the granola bars that we had thought we'd like before the trail started. So we switched on the CDT and we just sent ourselves dinners that we dehydrated and pre-made. So we get to town, we'd buy whatever granola bars and oats or whatever we were craving, but then we made sure that every day we had at least one meal that was nutritious and full of, and complete. It had protein and carbs and vegetables and all that stuff you should be eating at dinner time if you can, and you often can't on a hike, but by using the mail service, we could.
Okay. And the CDT, 3,100 miles long, give or take, depending on which routes you're taking, right? There's a lot of alternates with the CDT. How many shipments of care packages is that? And did you do that all at once? Did you have people sending them out on your behalf at certain time intervals? How does that work to do the logistics for a long trail like the CDT?
Yeah, for the CDT, we made 100 dinners ahead of time. I think it was, how many shipments?
I think 20.
20? Yeah, maybe 20 boxes. And on the PCT, Tim's mom mailed our boxes to us. And on the CDT, my mom mailed our boxes. And it would mail, 4 or 5 boxes at a time. And
to different
locations along the trail. The CDT was mostly to post offices, and the post office holds boxes for 30 days when you ship it to general delivery. So,
okay. And did you pack any surprises for yourself and forget about them until you opened the boxes?
No, but my mom would. We hinted that, we'll leave the boxes open, and there's some extra space, so feel free to, put some stuff in if you want. So she always sent us a little surprise. So that was nice.
Nice.
We always liked opening those and seeing what are we going to have. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was nice of her. And I think I'd add as you said, the CDT does have all these different route options. And that would complicate shipping meals. For various reasons, we decided pretty early on that we were going to take the official route the whole way and not do any of the alternates unless necessary for like a forest fire. So that helped Renee's mom or Talk's mom know where to send them. And we had made her a schedule of this is where we think we'll be on certain days. And we would update that if we were a little ahead or behind schedule. So that worked quite well.
Yeah.
And what, along those lines, what was your communication device out there? What did you take with you?
We just had our phones.
Oh, okay.
We had a phone. On the PCT, we had one phone shared between the two of us, and we learned that was not the right way to do it. So on the CDT, we each carried a phone.
Well, it's different than a spork, right? I mean, you can't just have one.
Yeah, it's nice to both have maps. Yeah, so we can hike separately if we want.
But did you have cell service out there?
Mostly no.
What if you got into a bind and you were out in the middle of nowhere with no reception?
That was a risk we took.
Okay.
So people, I think many hikers, maybe most hikers, carry spot devices or personal locator beacons. We don't. I don't have a really good reason for why we don't. They're not that expensive. They're not that heavy, but somehow it's never been something that we've decided to carry. So I wouldn't recommend that other people follow in our footsteps and say, oh, it's not a pure hike unless you're doing it without a spot. Like, carry a spot if it makes you feel more comfortable. But maybe also because there's two of us, that helped us feel a little bit like there was a backup plan other than a spot if one of us broke a leg or.
Right. Now, I think this is the second time I've heard you say that, I'm not a role model. I'm not trying to influence anybody, but you do have a TikTok account with 1.5 million followers.
Yeah. I don't want to tell anybody what to do. People like making their own decisions, but
hike your own hike. That's what everyone always says. Yeah.
Very good. Way to bring it back, Talk. Hike your own hike. Hike your own hike. All right. Hey, CDT, very long, lots of different environments, just like the PCT. Favorite spot on the CDT?
So my favorite spot was actually in Yellowstone. We had like a week of rain and it's just kind of cold and rainy, and got to Yellowstone, and early morning we got to this hot stream. It was like warmed by geysers and it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We got there at 6 a.m. It was all foggy and no one was around. So we stripped down, took off all of our clothes, jumped in the stream, and drank lots of instant coffee for an hour. So that was my favorite spot on the trail.
That sounds epic.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Tick?
Instead of a favorite spot, I'll give you a favorite section, which I might change my mind tomorrow. But as of now, my favorite stretch of 500 miles was the state of Wyoming. Is just shocking how diverse it is in terms of the landscape. So you come into Wyoming in some rolling mountains and you think you're leaving the mountains after Colorado. And then you drop into the Red Desert, which is a non-draining basin just in the middle of Wyoming. And it's pretty low relative to where you've been. And then you leave that and go up into the Wind River Range, and all of a sudden there's 13,000 foot peaks around you. And then you go into Yellowstone, which is full of geysers. And so just over the course of a couple weeks, it's like you've hiked on so many different environments. It's really exciting to see the landscape change so fast.
Yeah, I've heard so many people speak in awe of the Wind River Range. That's definitely a future destination for me.
I recommend it.
Yep.
Nice. Now in Yellowstone and in Wyoming and Montana, there are some big animals that live there. Did you encounter any grizzlies or moose?
Yeah. Yep. We saw 3 grizzly bears. Yep. So a mom and 2 cubs. We kind of came over a hill and it was open and we could see down the hill to this creek. And there were 3 things down by the creek, and said, those could be grizzly bears. And they're right on the trail. And so we just kept walking towards them and made noise. And and tried to be loud, and they weren't really moving. I think we saw 9 black bears on the trail, and every time we saw a black bear, it just took off running. And the grizzly bears, they just didn't want to move. So eventually they slowly walked to the other side of the creek. We passed really quickly. There was like a bridge, so we kind of had only one option of where to cross. Passed really quickly, got out of there, and they just went right back to where they were and continued munching on whatever they were eating. So it turned out to be just fine, but it's fun.
Nice. Now I want to talk about your website for a little bit, because I've taken a cruise through, and you got a lot of great material on there. You want to tell folks what they can expect to find on your website, and what is your website address?
Yeah, it's reneeandtimhike.com, spelled RENEE and timhike.com.
Is that just TIM?
Yeah.
No fancy spelling there.
Yeah, no accent on Tim and it's, we try to put things on there that might be useful for people. So we have a blog of just our daily write-ups of our through hikes. And then we've also put on a bunch of articles about, this was our power strategy on the Pacific Crest Trail, and here's our gear observations on the PCT, and we have that for setting out on the CDT. And so we'll put on more of that type of stuff relating to our CDT hike going forward.
Yeah. And then we also have a big section on all of our recipes. So we love cooking and eating, and sharing our recipes.
And this has been so exciting in the last couple of weeks. We've gotten some tags and messages from folks who have used our recipes on their own hikes. And that's been just so cool to see that people actually are going to that website and checking it out. And we love getting those messages. And I'm going to give a shout out to the backpacking chef. What's his name? Chef Glenn,
I think. Yeah.
Who he has a website all about cooking also, and that he is where we learned pretty much our whole cooking method. And now we've developed some of our own recipes based really on his method of dehydrating and rehydrating. So we wouldn't know anything about cooking backpacking food if it weren't for backpacking Chef Glenn.
Yeah, we try to be really fuel efficient in our cooking. So we soak our food, only bring it to a boil for a minute or two, and then let it sit for 10 more minutes just to save fuel.
Nice. I think I said earlier about going down the rabbit hole with tarp pitches in YouTube. I think that, I know in my case, planning for a hike is half the fun. Doing your research and planning, where are the possible campsites? What's the resupply strategy? How is this going to work? What are the meals going to be like? That is, for me, that's more than half the fun. And I'm always looking for great resources for planning hikes. And what you have in your website is a fantastic resource for anybody considering doing the PCT, doing the CDT, food strategies, power strategies, just a lot of great information there. So thank you for putting that together for us.
Thank you. Yeah, when we first started on that website, it was, you asked earlier about trail depression. It was maybe a cure for that. We were post PCT thinking, how do we relive the PCT? And we said, let's just make a website. And people are checking it out now. So that's cool.
Yeah. It's funny what people do with trail depression. They make websites, they host podcasts, they, all kinds of stuff out there.
They make apps.
Make apps. Very good. So what is next for Renee and Tim? What's next for Tick and Talk?
To be determined. Yeah. I think we will definitely go back to work this winter, and there will definitely be a big adventure next summer, but yeah, we're taking recommendations. So
yeah, if you have any ideas, we're all ears. We've got a schedule now. We've lined up our jobs in a way that will let us do something else big next summer, and we're looking forward to that. But yeah, we're really still deciding.
Yeah, it was clear after the PCT that we wanted to do the CDT, but nothing is just standing out as we have to do it next summer. So,
okay, all options are available then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've got a canoe that I built several years ago, and that's on the website too, how we built the canoe. And yeah, if we can find a way to incorporate canoeing into one of our future big trips, that would be fun. So we're thinking about that, and we'll see.
Okay. Guys, you know where we are?
Yeah.
Nice. I knew you would. This is the segment, the pro tip insight of the week. What do you have for us? What piece of wisdom do you have for us that's going to make our listeners' next outdoor adventure even better? And I'm expecting a pro tip from each of you.
Okay. So I'll go first. My pro tip is everybody wants a light backpack, and we focus so much on pack weight or base weight, which is good. It's good to get your base weight as low as possible, but it's often your base weight is less than half of your pack weight. You've also got food and water in there, and there's a lot of ways to reduce food weight if you pay attention to that. So I know hikers who love Tasty Bites, which are these Indian food packets. They're wonderful. They're not dehydrated. They're really heavy, and if you switch to stoveless in the interest of carrying these really heavy things, then your back's got to be prepared for it. So, so when thinking about weight, my pro tip is to also think about how can you carry lighter food.
Okay, good point. Yeah, we talk about base weight. We talk about 7 pounds, 10 pounds, 12 pounds, and in reality, that's just a fraction of what you're actually carrying on the trail. Yep, good point.
And I guess after that 17-day food carry that we told you about earlier, we learned that food can be really heavy.
Yep, we're always checking the calories and versus weight and how much fat and protein. Yep.
Yeah. Well, 17 pounds of Pop-Tarts, that's the same as 17 pounds of, dehydrated jerky. So 17 pounds is 17. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 17 pounds. It's 17 days. 17 days. Yeah. So 17 days of Pop-Tarts would be different weight than 17 days of jerky. I agree.
Right.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And we really do also notice that we're much happier when we try to get high quality food also. So a 250 calorie granola bar keeps us full a lot longer than a bag of Skittles for the same calories. So try to always, Skittles might be tastier than the granola bar, but the granola bar has more protein and keeps us full longer.
Okay. Talk, what is your pro tip?
I think my pro tip is start slow on these through hikes. That has worked really well for us on both the PCT and the CDT. We started at a slower pace of 15 miles per day and slowly worked up throughout the desert up to, over 20. We avoided injury and so that's my tip to stay on the trail in the beginning is just take it slow and easy and have fun in the beginning.
Start slow and build up those trail legs. Okay.
Yep.
So there you have it. That's it. This episode is just about in the books. I hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Tick and Talk. I want to thank them for joining us this week. Guys, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your next adventures?
On TikTok, we are Through Hikers, spelled with a U. And on Instagram, we are Renee and Tim. And
our website is reneeandtimhike.com.
Okay. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. Guys, I'm also looking to you to share a recommendation for a book, a movie, documentary, some type of adventure media to keep our listeners connected to the trail in the off season. What do you have for us?
I'll go first. We both have one, I think.
Okay.
Mine it's a throwback. It's the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. So nice old book published in 1947 or something. And every time I read it, it reminds me that there's nature all around us, and there's something really fun to see, even when you're not in the Sierras or on a 14,000 foot peak. You can find exciting wildlife in your backyard if you look hard enough. And so that's mine.
And give us the title one more time.
It's called Sand County Almanac. It's kind of it's just a book about about nature.
Okay. All right.
And it's by Aldo Leopold.
Got it.
And our friend Dirty Money, who we met on the PCT and also had a chance to hike with on the CDT, she has a great YouTube channel and website. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. And she will have a book coming out this winter. It will be available in German and hopefully soon after that in English. So I don't remember the title, but check out her social media and it'll announce when the book is available.
Some great trail names out there. Dirty Money, Parmesan. Fantastic.
And did you say her regular name for finding the book is Barbara Willen?
You couldn't look it up by Dirty Money?
It might be hard.
Probably not.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of about her. She has lives in northern Sweden and lives a very simple life in a tiny house, and so it's all about her adventures and simple life.
So she hikes in America. She lives in Sweden in a tiny house, and she writes books in German.
And she has sled dogs.
And sled dogs. Wow. I need to get that book.
Yeah, she's originally from Switzerland, but
okay. Very international.
Yeah.
And before we wrap things up, I've got one more segment for you called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Me About? What did I miss in the interview here?
My sister was also out on the trails this year, and she thru hiked the PCT while we were thru hiking the CDT with her husband. So,
wow, did she catch the hiking bug from you, or did you give her your copy of Wild after you were done with it?
Definitely both, and yeah, and her husband have been doing a lot of backpacking together for years too. So, yeah.
And what are their trail names? They cannot be as cute as Tick and Talk.
No. Her name is Pokey, because she is very slow at getting going, and that's a great name for her real life too, not just her trail life. And her husband is Double Stuff.
Double Stuff. Okay, referring to Oreos.
Yes. Yep.
He has an affinity for that on the trail. Or maybe off the trail,
I think
or both.
It was his clothing, right? Yeah.
I think it was his clothing. He looked like an Oreo, I guess.
Oh, okay, got it.
Like maybe black shoes, black shirt, and white shorts, or something like that. We weren't out there. We haven't seen them since they did the hike, so we don't have all the stories. But
well, you guys you're scouting up talent for me. I'm gonna have to get in touch with them. Are they on Instagram under Double Stuff and Pokey?
They're on there.
Yeah, they're definitely on Instagram. I don't honestly know. I think it might be Rachel Flunker. Oh God, is the Instagram. Yep.
And that's a different cat than walked through the frame earlier.
Yep. Yeah, we have 2 cats. This is Josefina. The other one was Topanga.
They're like, Mom and Dad, what are we doing here? It's late. We should be in bed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, guys?
Yeah, a few. We got a shout out to the people who watched the cats all summer. The Castle family, our friends from Missouri. So that's one shout out.
Yeah, not a small ask to watch 2 not so well behaved cats for 6 months at a time. And definitely shout out to our moms who have been helping mail our resupply boxes. And my dad also, he's very loves through hikers and watches all the YouTubes and follows all the blogs of all the through hikers. So it's fun talking to him about through hiking.
Does he listen to the podcast?
No, but I will have to let him.
He will now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely send him this episode and hopefully he'll be hooked.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in. Always remember the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you're carrying 17 days worth of food through the Sierras with no bear canister. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.